Welcome to the Spiritual AI podcast, where we explore the incredible power of our inner intelligence, which I call spiritual AI. Just like a computer uses AI to process data and find solutions, our awareness and intuition can guide us through life with clarity, ease, and purpose. Each week, we'll dive into the transformative tools, spiritual insights, and practical strategies to help you awaken, amplify, and align with your inner power. I'm your host, your friend, your guide, and your fellow student, Leonie Dutoy. Come and join the awareness and intuition revolution. Today, I'm taking you back to last year when I had another podcast called the Sacred Living Podcast. And I wanted to drop the episodes in here because I didn't really want the interviews and the content that I put on there to kind of just get deleted and go to waste, essentially. So sit back, let's rewind and replay. Welcome to today's episode on the Sacred Living Podcast. Today I've got a beautiful guest with me, Kim Herman. She's a beautiful soul. We've had a few interactions, and Kim is also going to be one of our experts in sacred healing when we launch next year. So look out for that. I will have more details on that. But let's get back to today's episode. If you are listening on the podcast and you would like to watch the interview, feel free to hop over onto YouTube because it will be there. The video will be there so you can see her beautiful smile and be part of the conversation. Otherwise, happy listening on whichever platform you are on. So, Kim, welcome. I'm going to just quickly read your bio so the beautiful people know who you are and a little bit about you.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. All right, so Kim is a holistic transformational therapist and coach. And after experiencing her own transformative journey through childhood wounds and trauma and emotional healing in the late 30s, Kim discovered powerful techniques that work at a conscious, a unconscious, and a soul level to release deep-seated pain and limiting beliefs. Her own personal breakthrough led to her true calling, which is guiding women to heal their hearts and transform their lives. So through her holistic approach, Kim helps her clients process stuck emotions, reshape their mindset, and create profound positive changes that ripple through their relationships, their families, and their personal growth. Her work combines therapeutic techniques with spiritual wisdom, freedom as well, to facilitate deep, lasting transformation. She works with her clients in multiple ways, including one-on-one programs, group programs, and transformative healing retreats. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here today.
I'm excited too. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, just a quick disclaimer. If there is noise, it is holidays. I've got kids in the background. If the doorbell rings, the girls will go and pick that up. So life happens while we work and we put all these beautiful energies out there. So if it happens, it happens. It's just life.
It's keeping it real.
It's keeping it real for sure. Now, Kim, obviously the introduction, there's a few touch points in there, but what I would like you to do, please, for the listeners, is to kind of just give us a little bit of background of who Kim was kind of pre-30s, pre that awakening, pre the healing stage of your life.
Wow,
Where did you grow up? Who were you? Just, yeah.
That's a really good question. I love that. So I grew up in a military family. Which was very, very strict. Parents that loved me but didn't really show a lot of love. So I think growing up in a military, I was always very independent, looked out for myself. And I moved out of home very young at about 17 years of age. I just finished school and got out. And I very much just got on with life because I think I had to. I had to survive. Any childhood traumas of not feeling loved, not feeling good enough that had really haunted me for a long, long time. I just pushed down and got on with life. And, I did attract a few toxic relationships as a result of lack of self-esteem and not feeling good enough. But deep down, there was obviously part of me that did believe I was good enough, because I tended to eventually leave those relationships. And, was fortunate in my early 20s to meet the love of my life, who is still my husband now, Luke.
Wow.
And, but having my children in my early 30s were the catalyst, because they brought up everything that I had suppressed. So I just, when I look back and I think, my husband and I traveled a lot, we had some amazing experiences, but I hadn't really dealt with my emotions properly. I'd always been a very spiritual person from childhood. So, I used to do a lot of spiritual practice, but I was totally spiritually bypassing everything, just keep my vibration high, just focus on everything that's positive. And I think part of how I handled my life, I was very much a control freak. And those of us that have children know we're very much not in control when we have little people come into the world. Yeah, and I think that sent me into that spiral of overwhelm and anxiety, and all the stuff that I had pushed down and ignored for so long started bubbling to the surface. And I was literally a volcano. I was, my outlet was anger, and I was freaking angry at the world and angry at everything, but it was only at home that I expressed that anger. So unfortunately, it was my children when they were younger. It was my husband that copped that side of me. I was in such a spiral of shame and guilt because I didn't like how I behaved.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And I didn't want God forbid if my friends found out, they're not going to want to be my friend. And I felt like such a fraud in the world. But you know what? It was the biggest gift and catalyst for me to go on my healing journey and deal with all those emotions, deal with that horrible hurt and the shame and the guilt and not feeling good enough, because I wore a really good mask. Like, I was really good at portraying that I was a confident person, but on the inside, it was mayhem, absolute mayhem. And I think, I went from one extreme or the other where I was very, very spiritual, and then I kind of ignored it completely for a while. And then I realised as my healing journey continued that it's about having them both together, having faith in ourselves and love for ourselves, but also having that deep faith in source, in the universe. And I guess when I discovered that and was able to bring that together, that's when the true magic kind of happened.
Kind of happened for you. So thank you for sharing that. So I wanted to ask you, because you said that you you've just spoken about the transition, but was there one specific moment that you went, it has to change? So what was that? Was there that one pivotal moment, or was it like a gradual?
Things were gradually getting worse, but there was one pivotal moment where I realised, I think for so long I'd been in that mindset of it's my parents, like a victim, like it's everyone else's fault that I'm angry. It's everyone else's fault that I feel like I do. And there really was a pivotal moment. I think my son was in year 2 and my daughter would have been in pre-primary, and he accidentally knocked his milk over at the breakfast table that morning. And when I would get angry, it was like a little switch would flick in me. And my conscious mind would be like, oh, my gosh, this is horrible. You can't speak to your kids like this. But it was just like something took over, and I absolutely lost it. And there was this moment where my son and daughter were sitting at the table looking at me, and I stopped and I just saw absolute fear. And my heart, I think, shattered into, I'm going to get teary now, into a billion pieces, because I love my kids so much and never wanted to hurt them. And that I remember falling to my knees and just bursting into tears and realising something's got to change. You know, and I'd seen some counsellors and I talked about things, but it really wasn't helping. And I knew I had to do something more, and I had to take ownership and I had to take responsibility, because I didn't like who I was, and I didn't want my kids hating their mother. And I remember I still took the kids to school that day, and I remember just letting the teacher know that we'd not had a great morning, and that if my son was a bit emotional, that was why. And she was like, oh, you know, I had a son who was a lot of hard work. I get it. And on the inside I was thinking, you have no idea. And I came home and I spent the whole day in bed crying. And then I got up the next day. I was like, right, I got to do something. And that's, I had already been introduced through Facebook to a woman online who was doing transformative healing work, and I quite liked her. And so I ended up ringing her and set it all in motion.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know, because I've got chills and I can totally relate. You know, I've got two beautiful girls, and I know that, you know, I've had a lot of those moments where I had this massive awareness of what was happening in the moment. And I just knew that that was not the way that I wanted to live, and that was not the way that I wanted to raise them, and it was not the way I wanted to be. So I can totally relate to having those moments and then having that instant realization what was happening. So I've had a lot of those, and like you said, those become part of the gradual, but they these bombshell moments that just, it's like, you know, the bombshell goes off and then the wave takes you a little bit further, and then when the wave settles down again, there's this need to keep moving, and then something will happen for us, right?
Absolutely.
And then the wave will push us again. So yeah,
absolutely. And that's the key. It's happening for us.
It is, absolutely.
I think it's a bitter pill to swallow when we first are trying to understand that concept, but when we do, it's actually a relief. In a way, because we then have the power to do something about it. And really, as human beings, we came here to learn.
Yeah.
And so when our pain, you know, that was my pain body screaming out and reflecting in my behaviour. But really, our pain body's just trying to highlight to us, well, this is something that you came here to learn.
Yeah.
And when we make that decision and we get the wheels in motion, it's not always easy.
Oh, no.
But
no, not.
You often get to the end of it and look back and think, actually, it wasn't as bad or as hard or as difficult as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the challenge in itself is just taking those first and initial steps and being brave enough to allow yourself to really feel what's coming up.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was very much about breaking cycles. My dad was a very much show no emotion or anger. And, seeing that fear in my children's eyes also brought back that remembrance of me feeling that way.
Yeah.
And I don't hate my dad.
No.
And you know what? He has his own healing journey to go on if he chooses to go on that.
Yeah.
But I can't, I am able to look back now and see it as the gift that it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't hold any shame or guilt around that. You know what? My children probably will need therapy in the future, or when they're ready and decide to go on their healing journeys, where they may go back and address what belief systems they made about themselves because of how I was when they were young. We know so much about belief systems in those early years of life.
That's it.
But you know what? I also know spiritually that they chose me to be their mother.
I was going to say that next.
Yeah. And you know what?
You
so
know,
they obviously chose to come here to learn certain things as well.
Yeah.
And I also know that I've helped me, you know, me going on my healing journey, and then about 5 years later, my husband went on his own healing journey. So we've shown them that this is something you can do, that we're not stuck the way we are, and we have that ability and power to take ownership of our lives and make it what we want to make it.
Absolutely. I think we're very fortunate. So if I think of the way the girls were raised pre my like real awareness, I've always been on a spiritual journey. So even when the girls were, when they were born and they were younger, even though I had been on the spiritual journey and seeking and doing it for so long, I still had been going through my own stuff. So I know that back then to where they are now is two very different ways of raising them. And, I feel very blessed that I have the awareness and that I'm on this journey, so that when things happen now, I stop, like it stops, and I go, whoa, hang on. I can see how this is going to be a trauma response in the future. I can see how you are going to need therapy then, 20 years from now. Let me just help you and sort that out now, and just cut that limiting belief down so that you can understand that that is not the truth. So I feel very fortunate that I could, can do that with my girls right now. But there's a lot of people who don't. They don't have, there's people who've completely raised their kids, and they're old, and they're wiser, older years now, and they look back and they, perhaps still hold the shame and guilt of, the things that are the ways that they were or weren't with their kids. So I can see that there's so many different directions that we can go with this. But I want to stay around kind of kids, and I want to stay around also, one of your expertise, which is working with the inner child. There's my head is like firing in all these different directions, but let's kind of go there. So what I want to do, just going with the inner child, I want to make it as simple as possible for the listeners, because my aim is to tap into, for the people who are just starting on the spiritual journey, who are kind of finding themselves in this gap of like not quite, asleep. I don't really like these words, asleep and awake, but let's just use those words. People who are caught in the gap between asleep and awake, and just finding themselves in this space of, how do I deal with my childhood trauma? How do I start releasing some of the stuff that's happened? So just kind of feel into the energy and just take it where it needs to go. I've got chills, so I know that we're definitely guided with this. So yeah, how can we help the people who are kind of stuck in this gap and who have got childhood trauma, that want to start lightening that load a little bit?
I love that question. And yeah, like you said, it's such a big topic. I think the first biggest gift we can give ourselves is to be able to allow ourselves to step back from the blame. I mean, you know what? Compared to some of the clients I've worked with, my level of trauma may not be trauma's trauma. Trauma's not about what happened to you. It's about what happened inside you as a result of what you experienced. But it's so easy for us to, I guess, compare traumas, especially if I've had clients that have experienced terrible abuse or terrible, war zone trauma. And then I look at what I experienced. And I think this is what stopped me from seeking help earlier, was because I kind of looked back and didn't think I had been through anything significant enough to warrant me being messed up, I guess, really. And is allowing us, that first step is to step back and not blaming, because for most of my life I blamed my parents. And I say that I kept everything down. In my teens, I didn't. I was a very angry teenager, and I remember my parents taking me to, I used to call it family torture. We used to go to family counselling, and it wasn't very good. It was just with the local GP. It was nothing. We can't shift forward. We can't take those steps to really heal when we're blaming other people. And I think for me, I can look back now and realise, especially with my training, I know people's behaviour, any unhelpful, negative behaviour is as a result of shame or trauma responses in everybody.
Yeah.
And I guess if you can take that on board, it doesn't mean we have to accept that what someone did was okay and that it was, but we have a different level of understanding of where other people are coming from. And then it's about being compassionate to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's about going on that journey and reparentifying ourselves. So, and that just comes with finding moments and pausing and asking ourselves, well, what am I really feeling in this moment? Oh, I'm feeling not good enough. 99% of the times those belief systems came from your childhood.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily need to know exactly what events triggered those belief systems.
No.
It's really most important, well, what am I feeling? And what can I do differently? What did I need back then that I didn't get that I can give myself now?
Absolutely.
I think that's something that you can learn to do on your own. Ultimately, working with someone that you resonate with to help you on that journey, you're able to go back a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And in a guided, safe way. But yeah,
sure.
what can I give myself now that I didn't get back then?
Yeah. I think for me, everything that you said is exactly, it's spot on. It's all part of that, right? For me, I think one of the big things that I would say is acceptance, and just accept that was your life, and moving forward, that actually doesn't need to be that, right? So acceptance of the past will kind of release a little bit of it.
Absolutely.
And then when you bring in that awareness, when you heightened your awareness, that then can put you in that place, like you said, for you to then sit with it and feel it. And then bring in the compassion and just go, if it was, let's say, mum and dad did the best with what they had in the moment, right? Because they also coming from a space of trauma, from their own lack, from their own wounds. So, and having that understanding and compassion for them as well, whichever situation, in whichever way you were brought up, whatever trauma you experienced in the home, if you can just view them with that compassion, that also takes another layer of it, right? So the more we bring these little puzzle pieces in, the forgiveness and the acceptance and the, looking at it from, the emotions and the compassion, those are all, every time you look at it, it takes a new little layer off it. And eventually that then dissolves. It becomes a very white page. It's like stripping the layers off of what that image used to be. The compassion and the acceptance, and then the awareness to look at it. I also wanted to just drop it in there so that people can understand, when you were talking about, the almost the size of the trauma, if you like, in inverted commas, right? So trauma can be as simple as, you as a child, you drew a picture of you and, for instance, your dad holding hands in the garden, and then excitedly you run into the kitchen to go and show your dad the picture that you just drew, all excited. And in that moment, your dad might be in a conversation with the boss on the phone, and he's frustrated, and he turns around and he tells you, "Not now." That moment, very simple for the child, can bring on a form of trauma of rejection, right? So trauma is not just, like you said, war-torn countries or sexual assault or, the big things. It can be something very, very simple that then snowballs because that belief is formed of rejection, that I'm not good enough. Just so that the listeners can understand that, if you think you don't have trauma, you really need to go sit in awareness and go, when did, for me, for instance, a maths teacher in primary school, because I didn't do homework, picked me up and she literally put me inside a bin, and how that then scarred me for the rest of my school days with math. And years later, I'm sitting here, I'm doing math in all ways, shape or form, and there's nothing wrong with me. But I had to get to that point to know that what happened then wasn't me. And that's one of the things in trauma, is understanding what happened to me doesn't define who I am now.
Exactly. Because we're born worthy, we're born deserving, we're born complete, and we forget it due to our experiences. And I love the example you gave. And even I know my parents' generation were very much about control crying their babies to sleep.
Yeah.
So, being left screaming and crying in a cot at a young age can create, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, no one's coming to get me, abandonment issues. So, it doesn't impact everyone the same, because sometimes people will come back with the argument, well, how come I don't have that? I think, like I mentioned earlier, and I believe when our souls choose to come here, we chose what we wanted to come here and learn.
Yeah.
And, so you're going to be presented with situations, types of traumas that are going to help you to learn those lessons, if that's what you choose to do in this lifetime, if you take on that challenge to learn them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like how you said, we can have those events happen when we're little, and it can create that snowball, because then especially if we've created beliefs like I'm not good enough, people reject me, then we often find ourselves in similar situations continually through life because we have that belief.
Yeah.
Because when we get back to the science of it, our unconscious mind wants to prove us right. And that's where we store all these unconscious beliefs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's crazy that you think that our own mind wants to do that, but part of its role is to keep us safe and to prove us right. So we will attract situations, or create them even unconsciously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes.
So say, there you are. So told you everyone abandons you. See, you were right.
Yeah. But in the meantime, that's that pattern that plays out, and it's your brain that goes and finds those situations to draw them to you so that you can then just reaffirm that belief, right? So it's really is like this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
People, this is where it's good to know about the reticular activating system in your brain, right? Because that will then, and with awareness, and then you become aware of the RAS, the reticular activating system, you realize that you are programmed to look for those things, and you'll find those. And the example is that, for people who don't know, is that your RAS, your reticular activating system, is a part of your brain that, because we've got millions of bits of information that come through in any given moment, the brain will filter out only the things that we want to see, or what we've got programmed within us. to see. And an example of this would be when you're driving down the street, you see all of these cars, but the moment you decide to buy a certain car, a specific car, the make, the model, the color, all of a sudden that is all that you see on the roads. And it's because your mind has then been given the task to go look for it. So just so that people can understand that, and that's the same with the trauma response, right? So if that little girl was picked up that belief, sticking with the dad, the picture, and going, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worth their time, or I'm not loved, then they're going to pick that up in when they work or at school or with friends, because that belief is then rippled out until they get to that point where they can actually sit and go, that's actually not the truth, and then reprogram, start over, start fresh with a new image, belief, or create this new picture that you want to draw into your reality. So
yeah, totally.
Very, very interesting. Now, Kim, you obviously, again, I want to stick with the inner child stuff, but is there one exercise or something that you can perhaps give the listeners that they can kind of sit with to help them perhaps find memories or experiences in the past that they
I'm not a fan of visiting. I'm not a fan personally of visiting past events.
Okay. Can you share why?
Because the body releases exactly the same hormones and trauma responses as if the event's happening.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think for a lot of people, sometimes that can do more harm than good. And we can't change what happened. What's happened has happened.
Yeah.
But what you can change is, what am I feeling and what am I believing?
Yeah.
So really, we don't need to be able to heal. We don't need to know exactly what happened, because sometimes our unconscious mind will protect us by not allowing us to remember what happened. But we do know what we're feeling, and we do know we can work out what we're believing.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not something I generally do a lot of practice with clients in revisiting events personally. But that's just the way I work. I know there are other practitioners out there that do. I found that we've got just as effective deep healing results without it. But I guess for the listeners, something that they can do, and I'm about to record a new one, so maybe I'll send you the link once I've done it, is using, even guided visualizations where you actually go and visit your inner child, that younger version, and just asking them, how are you feeling? What do you need today? And learning and practicing in having that conversation with that inner child. And it is a practice. It is. Sure, yeah. The more you do, the easier it gets. And learning to really listen for the response through your heart center, not through your logical mind. So feeling what the response is coming from that inner child.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful exercise. I agree with you. There is a lot that we can release where we don't really need to know what it is. There are also so many different modalities out there. So if you are listening to this for the first time and you are starting to kind of just feel into what is right for you, how am I going to do my own healing journey? It's important for you to listen from a space of awareness and intuition, because what Kim and I are discussing today might be right for you. It might also not be right for you. There might be another person out there that's got a I don't want to use the word better, but different and better for you exercise to do. So just always stay in awareness, always stay guided by your intuition, because those two spirit senses are going to guide you to exactly what it is that you need. Now, we have mentioned it before, is that everybody's got a different journey, right? You can have, actually, Kim, I was going to say, earlier when you mentioned about having similar experiences, but it's the environment. You can have two people who have exactly the same trauma, but the other puzzle pieces in their picture, their life, creates the outcome differently. So that's how one person can have no trauma response out of what happened to them, and the other person has a massive trauma response. It's because there's so many other elements surrounding it, right?
100%.
So there is, your beautiful inner child, and if you can send me the link and I'll put it in the show notes for people and they can go and find it. So just be aware that there's so many different ways but if you do feel like there is a block and there's a limiting belief, you can actually go and have a look and see where it's coming from, right? And then the inner child, that guided meditation, the visualization would be powerful, because you're going in you can go in as an observer, not as the actual person, to relive the emotions, right? So there's all these little different things that we need to keep awareness of. But I believe that inner child visualization is definitely a really powerful tool for people to use. Yeah.
And I love what you said about discernment. It's so important. And like you said, you might not resonate to do something now and you're drawn to something else, but then down the track, and you may try working with a particular practitioner and it didn't quite give you the results you were seeking, but I guess it's trusting you got exactly what you needed in that moment, and then allow your intuition to guide you where you need to go to next. I wish I could say there was a destination in healing.
No, it's not about the destination.
No,
right?
it's not. It's about the journey. It's all about the journey. There is no destination, and it doesn't mean we need to not. We're not broken. We don't need fixing. It really is about the journey and going on that journey of learning what we came here to learn, whatever that is. But everyone is different.
Yeah, absolutely is. I actually just released a new podcast this morning, and I went on a retreat on the weekend, and the message that I got from it, when I asked a few questions about my life and relationships and work and money and kids and everything, it was just that we overcomplicate things. It's actually quite simple, and healing can also be quite simple. Sometimes receiving can be as easy as letting go. Sometimes you just need to just surrender and just let it go, and just that acceptance that it happened and that it's not you anymore, and then just be with who you are and just step into that new life that you want to, and just create that and stop looking back, right?
Yeah. And I think we're really fortunate. We're living in a time on the planet where the frequency is raising so much that healing can happen really fast, like you said. And it can be as simple as making that decision and just knowing that it's time for you to accept it and let it go and just focus forward. It's exciting, I think, how we are as a planet and as human beings, how supported we actually are consciously and frequency wise on our healing journey at the moment, more than it has been for, gosh knows, a long, 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 long time.
For sure. Yeah, it is. There's definitely a speeding up of healing, a speeding up of understanding, a speeding up of awareness and intuition and tapping into. And there's this, even with, obviously with the whole COVID thing, that is, that just brought on a mass awakening. It was just beautiful to experience, actually. It was just freeing, opening up, liberating. There was so much beauty actually around what happened on the planet in that time, right? So totally agree that there's a lot of things that are happening really, really quickly. So I I am mindful of the time. So I want to kind of just finish off and see, if you can perhaps leave the listeners with some awareness around it doesn't have to be inner child work, just awareness around any form of like trauma work or reprogramming the subconscious mind or anything that you feel guided to just in this moment, whatever drops in, to kind of just leave it with them as a way for them to just take it away and maybe work on themselves a little bit.
Can I share something out of a book with you that I'm feeling drawn to share? Let me just grab it.
Yeah, go for it.
I think the thing that really dropped in when you asked that question, that I think for me and most of my clients has been such a big moment in helping them shift their mindset around their healing, comes back to that difference between being victimized and victimhood. And a couple of years ago, I read this book called The Choice by Edith Eger, who was a Holocaust survivor. She's still around. I think she's 98 now. She's she became a psychologist, but she describes it perfectly, the difference between the two. And when I read this, it was like, I mean, I had already understood this, but the way she presents it, it really dropped even more.
Yeah,
so
beautiful.
So through her own search for freedom and years of experience as a licensed clinical psychologist, it taught her that suffering is universal, but victimhood is optional. There is a difference between victimization and victimhood. We are all likely to be victimized in some way in the course of our lives. At some point, we will suffer some kind of affliction or calamity or abuse, caused by circumstances or people or institutions over which we have little or no control. This is life. And this is victimization. It comes from the outside. It is the neighborhood bully, the boss who rages, the spouse who hits, the lover who cheats, discriminatory laws, or the accident that lands you in hospital. But in contrast, victimhood comes from the inside. No one can make you a victim but you. We become victims not because of what happened to us but when we choose to hold on to our victimization. We develop a victim's mind, a way of thinking, of being that is rigid, blaming, pessimistic, stuck in the past, unforgiving, punitive, and without healthy limits or boundaries. We become the jailers. We become our own jailers when we choose the confines of the victim's mind. And I think when we get that, it's so liberating to realise that we can choose to not be that way. And initially we think, well, but it seems so hard to make that choice. But like you mentioned, finding acceptance can be that first step.
Absolutely.
And then you take the next step. And then you take the next step.
Yeah. And like you mentioned it just like in your words there, it's a choice.
Yeah.
You choose. Every day you choose. Every moment you choose. So yeah, choosing to let go of the past, choosing to accept, choosing forgiveness, choosing to move on. There's so much I can say around choosing, but yeah.
And I think to help you take the actions, I do this myself and I encourage my clients, is rather than focus on what you don't want, focus on what you desire to have.
Yeah.
Focus on your desires and then look at, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to be thinking? What do I need to be feeling? And how do I talk if I have that desire? And start doing those things or learning how to do them.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny because I was like, when I was talking about the choosing, I had this example of my own experience come up, and then I was like, no, I won't share it today. And then you were talking about that, and I was like, no, I need to share this. So it's, you know, that choice and redirecting our energy, right? So not choosing the old, but choosing the new. And I won't go into detail, but, you know, when it came to, you know, I struggled with depression and it went really dark for me. So, but when it came to coming out of that, I didn't have psychiatric help. I didn't have doctors. I didn't have anybody who understood what I was going through. I had to do it myself. And that's where my journey with awareness started. But that's the one thing that you were talking about. And the way that I did it was whenever I felt depressed or I felt that feeling coming on, I would physically stop my body and I would turn my body around and say, I'm not going down that road again. And I would literally turn my body around and I would go, I'm going this way. I choose healthy. I choose happy. I choose a different way. So exactly what you're saying. Sometimes it needs to be a very physical action for you it's that reprogramming, right? And that also runs into things like manifesting and creating the life you want. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that example that you shared. That really illustrates it.
It does, yeah. It is. So and that's also one of the other things, right? Is like you said, is when we have these journeys that we go through and we've got all the trauma and we've got all the past, and once we get over that bump and we kind of step into the healing side, we realize that our past then becomes the healing for somebody else. It becomes the support for somebody else. And you don't necessarily have to step into and become a healer in this capacity, but just a simple conversation with a colleague at work could put you in the space of the healer and help somebody else. So there's always a reason for the life that you've chosen.
Oh, the ripple effect.
It's massive.
Continues.
Yeah.
Continues.
And that's also like another 12-hour conversation.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to keep it there. Kim, thank you so much for hopping on with us today. I loved the conversation. I think that we need to do this again. There's other topics that we can touch on for sure.
Thank you so much. I've loved it. It has been a really, really meaty conversation. I've loved it.
Yeah, it has been. So before we go, please tell the listeners, where can they find you? What have you got on? Do you have any programs or anything starting in the new year? Just tell the listeners and I'll make sure that the links are in the description.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on Facebook, just under my general name. I actually post more on my personal page than my business page. So don't be afraid to follow or even friend request. My website is www.kimherman.com. I do work with clients one-to-one. I am rerunning my program next year, a group healing program. I'm just working out the dates of when that'll be. It'll probably be March. So I will share more of that when that's available. I also run very, very deep healing retreats. I just ran one this October in Bali and running another one in Bali next year. So the books are open for those. There's monthly payment plans at no extra cost. If you want to honour yourself a whole week of being able to work deeply on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's limited to 10 people. So it's a very small, discreet,
intimate group. Yeah,
intimate group.
I saw the photos. It looked amazing.
So. Yeah, it was. It was very amazing. And I'm very discerning in the people that come as well. So it's a very safe.
Yeah.
There was so much sisterhood healing that occurred, even though that wasn't the intention of the retreat as well.
No.
Just everyone on their own journey, but just the support there was really, really, really beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'll make sure that the links and everything is in the show notes for the people. And also, if you guys want to work a little bit closer with Kim, and with we've got 3 other experts. So Kim, myself, and 3 other experts will be diving into some healing work in Sacred Healing Program. It runs over 12 weeks. So if you want to join us, Kim will be there. I'm really looking forward to having you present one of the modules for us. The link will be in the show notes as well. So the Sacred Healing Waitlist. And yes, again, thank you so much for your time and your beautiful energy, Kim.
My absolute honor. Absolute honor. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate having you. All right, guys, thank you for joining us on today's podcast. I will more than likely put this on really quickly, Kim. So probably within the next day or so, it will go up so we can get it to the beautiful people out there. Please share, like, follow, do all those beautiful things, because when you do that and you rate the shows and you share it with friends and family, what happens is it ripples out into the universe and we can help more people like yourself, like when we needed the help, when we started our spiritual journey. You know, there's so much help out there, and all the things that we went through and we struggled for, 10, 20, 30 years to get over, because we have the tools and techniques, we can actually help you cut that time frame back by so much. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to search for, 10, 20 years. There's a lot of things that we can help you with, and we can make the journey so much easier for you guys. So if it resonates, work with Kim. If it resonates, work with me. If it resonates with somebody else, follow your intuition, follow your awareness, and know that they will be the right people for you. So, right. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you, Kim. Guys, we'll catch you on the next podcast. Thank you for joining me on the Spiritual AI podcast. Don't forget to rate and share the show with your friends. It will only take a few seconds. So go ahead, go and rate the show, share it with a friend, spread the message of the power that we hold within each one of us, our awareness and our intuition. Let's create a revolution. Let's change the world. I'll see you next time.